everyone, and welcome to the Pathways to Wellbeing podcast. On today's show, we are joined by Elise, all the way from Indonesia. Elise is a fascinating individual whose journey into the world of lightworkers, healers, and starseeds has captivated many. In this conversation, we will dive into what it means to be a starseed, how to recognize your unique gifts, and the transformative journey that awaits those on this path. Whether you're new to these concepts or well-versed, today's discussion promises to offer deep insights and inspiration. Before we experience this fascinating discussion, do not forget to hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and then visit www.sacredu, that's the letter U, .love for more valuable resources. May you enjoy today's conversation.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pathways to Wellbeing podcast. It's great to introduce you today to Alice, all the way from Indonesia. And I've been reading your bio, Alice, and it just fascinates me. And this is a topic that I don't know very much about. So I'm really looking forward to having a chat with you and unpacking what it is you do and getting that greater understanding. So welcome. It's really lovely to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Helen. It's been a pleasure to be here. I can't wait to share about this as well. It's a topic that is so close to my heart. So yeah.
Great. So if I can just paint the picture in a broader sense, what you're doing is it's all to do with light workers, healers, and starseeds, and how to basically awaken into that journey so that they can really pull on their gifts and things that they have. So let's start off. What is a starseed? Can you explain to me what that actually means?
Yes. So Starseed is basically soul who reincarnated onto Earth in this lifetime. However, they've originated from the star, and hence the name Starseed. So their soul origins from the star, but they reincarnate into Earth for their personal and collective mission. So that's how I define Starseed, and that's the Starseed I focus on. And some broader explanation of Starseed also involve other beings other than that from the stars. But for the purpose of my work, I'm literally referring to Starseed that comes from the stars.
Okay. So how do you know if you're a starseed?
It is a journey, as with, any soul discovery process. And honestly, for me personally, I've been surrounded by starseed my whole journey without thinking I'm one, which is really funny looking back. Like, how did I miss it when it's in front of me? Because when I started my meditation journey, I had zero spiritual background. I didn't come from that background, whether from work or family. But all of my friends who I met in the community were telling me that they are starseed and that they come from Orion, Palladian, whatever star name that they gave me, and they say they meet their soul family, and I'm like, I'm barely quieting my mind. So whatever this starseed thingy is not really for me at the time. But then I had my personal awakening journey that confirms I'm a starseed. So that's a long answer to your question. And the reason for that is because it looks different for everyone. So I'm using my story to see how that might relate with you. So my personal first encounter with my starseed journey is when I actually was in Bali at the time. And then there was one night where it was during the silent day and it was pitch dark at night. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night at those weird 4 a.m. thingy. And I suddenly look up at the stars and I felt this feeling of coming home in a way that I've never felt my entire life. And I felt so much bliss and peace that I couldn't even find words to describe it. But one thing that is like confirm everything is I heard this inner voice that says, you are home, you have arrived, and you are never alone. And that's when I'm like, everything clicked and the dots connected. Yes, I'm a starseed. So that's like my confirmation to confirm that I'm a starseed. Having said that, like I was surrounded by starseeds, so I'm very well aware of the common signs we see in starseed that already helped me identify to know that I might be one, but then I was not like 100% sure. So I hope that answers your question to some extent.
Yeah, so that was at the end of, so you'd had some signs and different things and people around you talking about this before that moment. So what are some of the common signs of a starseed?
So one of the most common signs is actually that longing for a home, that feeling like no matter who you are with, even when you're literally home with your family in this earth, even when you're surrounded by people, you constantly are searching for home, but you couldn't find that feeling of longing and yearning and wanting to be home. And another sign is also related, which is like constantly trying to belong. So it actually makes sense, right? Like you come from the start, you go to Earth, and especially if it's your first time, then everything is new. So it's like, I don't feel home here. It feels weird. I don't know what's going on. I don't feel like I belong. So these are the two most common signs that is almost like every single starseeds I talk to, all of my students at least will have these signs. They might not have the other signs, but these two are almost like 99% there from my personal experience of working with Starseed. So those are the common signs, and I dive deeper into it in my free Starseed activation just to give like a better overview, which is a little bit too long to explain everything here. However, that signs are like the most common ones.
Okay. So what does it mean then when if somebody then they realize that they are a star seed and you talk about activating their gifts? So what does that mean? What sort of gifts do star seeds have?
So the importance of first understanding that you are a starseed is mainly just for the peace of mind of the human, honestly, because we are still living a human experience. So there are a lot of questions, especially if you constantly feel like you don't belong and then you feel like you can never fit in. It's almost like you're questioning that you're weird and that you are the odd one out. And that makes it really hard to navigate life. And having the understanding that, oh, it is because I'm a starseed, so I'm not weird. I'm just different. I'm just coming from a star. And that understanding gives the mind that feeling of safety and peace. Not like we are more special just because we are starseed. It's not about that. It's just that feeling of assurance. What it means to activate starseed gifts is that we might have gifts from the past, if you want to call it the past life, so to speak, or just like based on our origin of having the starseed DNA within us, that there is light codes or energy imprint, if you may, that contains our gifts that we might forget. And being able to remember and activate that will help us to actually bring that gift to greater purpose, which is why we come here on earth. And sometimes that gift doesn't necessarily have to be so tangible like human to make it to be that it has to be like writing or singing or cooking, that kind of thing. Of course, that are gift too, but sometimes a lot of the times the gift that they bring can just be like energetic code, like how you feel super at peace just by the presence of someone. That could like just be the imprint of the gift that Starseed has, that just by being in that person, you are healed in that sense. Not necessarily healed like from sickness, so to speak, but healed in the sense that you remember who you are, why you are here, and remembering the divine love within you. Does it make sense?
Yeah, that would bring someone a lot of peace, I would imagine, especially if you are feeling lost and like you don't fit in any place. That just that whole sense of relief and peace to find out that this is why and it's okay. And I love how you were talking about the different gifts, because I think people too get a little bit caught up on what is my purpose? Why am I here?
Mm-hmm.
And often we think it's to do something, like mechanically do something. But, you know, there's such a great gift in being an uplifter, in being someone who just makes people feel good just by being in their presence. That's an incredible gift to be able to
Exactly.
have. Yeah. Okay. So people who they find you and this is what you help them to understand, be at peace with who they are, accept who they are, understand who they are, and to then be able to use or uncover their gifts and be able to then use their gifts. Is that right?
Yes, that is part of it. So the other part of it, depending on what the person is working on and where they are in the journey, is also that they get to actually also remember why they come here. Like, why do they choose to incarnate into this earth? Usually, starseed often, not all, but most of them have what I call a double mission. One is like the personal mission, which is unique to your soul that you choose, that is so distinct. And another is a collective mission that is what you decide to be as part of the collective. And this is usually something more general, such as here to raise the vibration, here to spread love, here to be an uplifter, like you said. That's like the conscious collective mission that we are here on a greater purpose. And then that's why it's called a double mission, like a personal mission and a collective mission. So that's also part of what I help people with. And also another beautiful thing that I guide them through a journey in my Starseed activation is that they get to actually also meet their star family through that guided journey and that is such an important first step actually. Like you don't necessarily need to have a name for it. Like you don't need to fix. It's not about fitting the box that I come from Orion, I come from this. It's not about that, but it's again having that journey of coming home and meeting your family, even if you don't have the name or the face even, but that help you to activate this entire remembrance journey. It's like you go home and then you pick up all the resources you need that you have left behind, and then you're collecting it all back and starting to put the big puzzle so you can see it clearly now.
Beautiful. So you mentioned before your journey, and you had people around you who were star seeds, but you didn't know enough about it. You were still very early on in that. So part of that was you encountering the Palladian star mothers. What does that mean? What is a Palladian star mother?
So that was later on in my journey after I've gone through everything that I've shared earlier. Palladian is also better known as the Seven Sisters. It's part of the constellation or star system. So that is one of the star origin that I know that I came from. And my encounter started with seeing like flashes of blue light during my meditation, which is rare. Usually I don't work with blue light in that sense. And I started to see flickers and flashes, and I just trust like the energy that's coming through, and I continue working with it. And I think within a week, what started out of like flashes become like this whole council of Palladian Star Mother that is very visible, not necessarily in physical form, but in energy form during my meditation. And their presence is so strong that I totally felt them right down to my bone and to my cells. And that's now like my part 2 of my awakening journey with Starseed. So yeah, at that point, I know with certainty that I definitely come from Palladian, which is one of my main origin. And Palladian Star Mother are what people believe to be like this consciousness, like a collective consciousness that represent the divine feminine as well. And they are here very early on the humanity, which is here to seed humanity, like help to seed humanity with the information, the knowledge and wisdom, and in that sense, they play a big part in human evolution. And that's why they are referred to as the star mother because of that as well.
Okay, yeah. So it's like a maternal sort of role that they've got in moving things. Yeah. Okay. And how has your life changed from before you had all of this awareness through your journey? How has your life changed now that you know that you are a starseed and you have that greater understanding?
It is actually that total acceptance of being who I am and able to reflect who I am and show it to the world. And it is especially relevant for me in terms of my work, because as a person, I don't see that. Yeah, there is difference because there are more self-love, more self-compassion, but the main thing for me is it get reflected in my work. So obviously before the event of Starseed Awakening, I wasn't talking about Starseed in my work. So I was starting out as a life coach and then eventually doing angel healing and meditation and things like that. And I came to a point where like nothing worked, just nothing seems to work. And then not long after that, I had the Starseed Awakening. And then soon after, I started to teach and talk about Starseed and telling people how to know if you are Starseed, guiding them to meet their star family, remembering their gifts, everything we talked about earlier on, which I have put them beautifully into a course by now. But it is when I was able to really embody that for myself and share it with the world that my business now feels so aligned, because it become a reflection of who I am and why I'm here, and sharing my gifts in that way and supporting other people. And that kind of helped me to fulfill my personal mission as well, which is to become the beacon of light for those who are in their awakening journey through all these offerings in whatever shape, way, or form, and even through this podcast, right? It's not just words that we are having here. We are having an energetic conversation. There are frequency here. There's activation, there's healing, there's opportunity for transformation instantly, just because of maybe one word that I say or you say, right? Or just by looking at us, something has shifted because it's all energy. So yeah, I would say that is what it totally changes into that. If I were to sum it up, it's just living my truth. Like it enables me to live and express my truth in a way that I wasn't able to before.
Oh, that's beautiful. So I think there are so many women who want to be able to do that. Are starseeds only women, or is it men and women as can be star?
Both.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't want to make that assumption. No, that's fantastic, because I say women, but I think everyone does to some degree want to be able to be their authentic self, to want to feel comfortable in their skin, to want to just be able to be and be happy. So I think it's fantastic that you're able to help them to do that. Are there many starseeds on Earth? Do you know, or is it not something that
I know that there are a lot, although I don't have numbers.
Yeah.
But I do know that there are a lot, and partially also because more and more people are talking about it. So more and more people are awakening to it. Not so much that they suddenly arrive on Earth, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that's fantastic that you've got this space, because you do your own podcast as well, the Starseed Goddess podcast. And I think it's fantastic to have these sorts of conversations, because you don't know what you don't know, and something will resonate. And I think especially when people are lost and feeling like they don't fit in somewhere, they're searching. And so to have these sort of things available for them to stumble across by accident, I think it's fantastic, because it's going to help them in their own personal journey. So what else do you do on your podcast? You talk about the Starseeds. What else do you do on that podcast, or is that the only focus?
So the Starseed Goddess podcast is basically about spirituality. Obviously, there are slightly biasness, if you may, like, not so much bias, slightly focused on the Starseed and light workers and healers and things like that. Another thing that I talk a lot about in the Starseed Goddess podcast is also light language. And that is something that I personally love, and I talk and I teach people how to speak as well. So that's another thing that I talk about a lot, which is another topic. But
What was
beside
that?
that, it's pretty, yeah, I can
What's
share
that?
more if
No, what did you call it?
light language.
No, what
Yeah,
is light language?
so light language, basically, the way I define it is just energy transmission. So it sounded nothing like human language. So when someone is speaking light language, it sounds like foreign language. And yet it feels very familiar for a lot of people because they might again have that remembrance journey. Whether you remember your starseed, and light language is like another way to help you remember who you are, why you are here as well. Not necessarily have to be related to starseed, although a lot of starseed do find remembrance through that language. And a lot of times when people are brand new and they chance upon light language, they might think that, oh, this is weird, or this is out of this world. It doesn't make sense. It's not meant to make sense because it's not a language in terms of human understanding as A, B, C, D, E. It's simply a transmission of energy. The only difference is we are translating it through expression of words, or rather sound rather than words. So that light language have that sound frequency that is coming through, that comes from the source, and then it can be used for whatever intention you want to set it to be, like whether it is for DNA activation, for heart opening, or whatever you want to set the intention to be, or you just allow whatever that comes through to come through. So that's another thing that I talk a lot about in my podcast, and then just in general around healing and awakening journey.
Is that something people can learn, or is it something that you just have that needs to be awakened?
Yes and no. Like you can learn it, not so much like learning by memorizing. Learning is more like what you say, it's something that you awaken to and you remember to. However, there is a process that can help you with that. So in that sense, I say that I teach you how to speak. When I say that, what I mean is that I have a process to help you remember that light language inside of you, because your light language is going to sound different than mine and sound different from another person. It's unique to your soul, but that process can help you to awaken that inside of you. It's more like an awakening and activation than learning in the traditional sense.
Yeah. So does everyone have that within them, or is it only starseeds that have the light language as well?
Everyone.
Okay.
It doesn't mean though that you have to activate it if you don't feel like it. We are here
No, that's
on our
right.
own.
But if you're curious and you think, wow, this is amazing, because it's shifting that energy. And I think anything that shifts your energy and makes you feel good is worth looking into.
Yeah, exactly. Like I always say that start by listening to some before if you feel called to. So most of my students, they always start with chancing upon, like you say, by accident on light language. And then they are so intrigued by it. They are so drawn and so pulled. And the next thing they know, instead of binging on songs, they are binging on light language, and they are listening to it every day and they love it so much. And then it comes to a point where, okay, I think I want to speak mine. The same way that you go to yoga classes and one day you're like, I'm going yoga teachers training.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So is it, do you happen upon it on YouTube? Is it, because you were saying it's sound?
Yeah, if you Google light language, you're gonna get a bunch of sample that people put up there in YouTube or whatever channel you use. And even in my podcast, Starseed Goddess podcast, you're gonna see some light language transmission, I call it. And there is one specific one called Starseed DNA activation that is on the main page. So that's where you can have a 3 minutes preview of what that sounds like. And the most important thing that I often share is to not try to logically analyze it, because you are not getting anywhere with that, but rather like just opening your heart to feel what comes up and to allow yourself to just receive that energy and frequency and transmission that comes through.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds beautiful. I'm going to go and have a look.
Yeah, and
It's
let me
so
know how that
interesting.
feels.
And because this is something that I've not heard of before, so I find it really fascinating when, especially people who are so skilled in energetic work, I think it's just a fascinating field. And it must be very fulfilling as well for you to be the one who helps people. And
Yeah, it's like what you shared. It is energetic work at the end. It's just another modality. And what I really love is light language really help to bypass the mind and just it really shift the vibration so fast in my personal experience as well as most of my students that even for example with the Starseed DNA activation that I have in my Starseed Goddess podcast, that was a preview. So it was about 3 minutes to a longer track that I have that is 22 minutes. I was in another podcast interview the other day, and the podcast host was telling me he listened to that 3 minutes one and he felt his entire body vibrating. And it was only 3 minutes. And if you think about it, 3 minutes is very short. So that is what I love the most about light language. So yeah, for those of you who are new, go and check it out. Just be conscious to treat it like meditation. So don't be driving when you're listening to it. It can really be
that's a good tip.
activating. Yeah, because people like to multitask, right? So I'm like, especially people on podcasts, they tend to like, oh, I'm just gonna put it as a background. No, not light language as your background. Be present with it. And also think about it, the more present you are, the more you are receiving it too. So give yourself that gift. Just 3 minutes of your day and watch the difference.
Oh, I'm definitely going to try that because I love all the things about law of attraction and your vibration and your energy and what you're sending out, what you're receiving back in. So I'm definitely going to give that a go. Thank you so much, Alice. If somebody wants to work with you because you have so much knowledge and so much experience in this area, instead of trying to find it themselves, if they want to work directly with you or if they want to have a look at that 3 minute sample or be part of what you do, how can people contact you?
So people can contact me via Instagram at Alice Hadi is my handle, or you can check out my website alicehadi.com or Starseed Goddess podcast, which you will find in the link. So as we were sharing, you can find a sample of light language called Starseed DNA activation in the podcast itself. It's in the main page. It should be quite easy for you to find it. And I also have a Starseed activation, which is a free activation where you get to find out in deeper details as to the 7 common signs of being a starseed and how to know if you're one and get to meet your star family. And of course, if you want to deepen it, Starseed Awakening course and light language course, you can find all those beautiful offerings all in my website, basically.
Okay, so that website again was Starseed. What was your website address again?
alicehadi.com.
Oh, so just spell that for us because it's not how we would think it was. So it's ELIES.
Oh, okay.
HADI.
So it's ELIESHADI. So it's the same name for my Instagram, the same handle, ELIESHADI, and then that for the website as well.
Beautiful. And I'm sure they'll put the links below this podcast as well so people can get in contact with you. It's been so interesting. Thank you so much. Before we wrap it up, is there anything else that you'd like to add? Any other tips or suggestions or recommendations?
I would say just be present in the here and now because that's where everything is happening. And to really trust yourself, trust the nudges that come through, trust the synchronicity, the sign, the messages, the information that landed on you, the people you meet, all those things. Follow the nudges, trust, act on it, and watch the magic unfold.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we do too much of is we are too much in our head, too much logical, too much analyzing things. And so if that can help us balance it out a bit, of course you need to be logical sometimes, but not, I think we're out of balance a lot in that area. So if this can bring things back to balance, bring you back to just trusting your intuition, because your intuition is always going to lead you in the right direction. and just really finding that inner peace and authenticity. I think it's an incredible service that you offer. So thank you so much, Alice.
Thank you for having me, Helen. It's such a pleasure and such a joy.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed this. Okay. That was
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.